The alarms screamed through the bridge of the coalition vessel Harmony's Edge. Admiral Vextar's four eyes focused on the main display screen. A small ship drifted helplessly in the darkness of space. Its hull was cracked and twisted. Burn marks covered most of its surface. What species? Admiral Vextar asked his science officer. Unknown design, sir. The markings appear to be from the species called humans. We have limited data on them. Admiral Vextar nodded slowly. The coalition had heard whispers about humans. They were a young species from a small blue planet. Most reports said they were primitive but curious. Their ships sometimes wandered far from their home system. Are there life signs? Yes, sir. 12 beings aboard. Their life support is failing. Begin rescue operations immediately. The coalition rescue teams moved quickly. They brought the damaged human ship into the cargo bay of Harmony's Edge. Coalition medical teams stood ready. Translator Kethra waited with her language programs active. The airlock hissed open. Smoke poured out. Then the humans appeared. The first human through the door wore a blue uniform with silver markings. He was tall with dark hair and serious eyes. Behind him came another human in similar clothes but with different markings. More humans followed. Some wore work clothes. Others had different colored uniforms. The leader stepped forward. He spoke in his own language first. Then he tried broken coalition standard. I am Captain Park Jiwan of the exploration vessel Soul Wanderer. We thank you for rescue. Translator Kethra quickly activated her systems. Her voice spoke in both languages. Welcome aboard Harmony's Edge. I am Admiral Vextar. You are safe now. Captain Park bowed slightly. This surprised the coalition officers. Most species either showed fear or demanded immediate contact with their governments. These humans seemed grateful and respectful. We have 12 crew members. 3 are injured. Our ship suffered engine failure and hull breach. We have been drifting for 6 days. Our medical bay is ready for your injured, Admiral Vextar said. Captain Park turned to speak with his crew. Admiral Vextar watched the interaction carefully. The captain spoke to a human in similar uniform. This must be his second in command. Then something interesting happened. Captain Park walked over to a human who looked very different from the others. This human was older and shorter. He wore simple green clothes instead of a military uniform. He had kind eyes and gentle movements. The captain spoke to him with obvious respect. The older human nodded and moved toward the injured crew members. He knelt beside them and began checking their conditions. His hands moved with skill and confidence. Who is that human? Admiral Vextar asked Translator Kethra. One moment, sir. Kethra spoke to Captain Park. The captain says this is their chief medical officer. They call him Doc. His real name is Lee Minho. Admiral Vextar studied this Lee Minho. The human wore no rank markings. He carried no weapons. He looked like a simple doctor. But something about how the other humans watched him seemed important. Captain Park, Admiral Vextar said, Your injured crew needs immediate treatment. Our medical bay has the best equipment. Captain Park started to answer. Then he stopped. He looked at Lee Minho. The doctor was still examining the injured humans. Captain Park waited. Lee Minho looked up. The injuries are serious but not immediately life-threatening. However, I recommend we move them to your medical bay as soon as possible. But I need to examine your equipment first. Some of our crew have allergies to certain treatments. Captain Park nodded immediately. Doc will check your medical bay first. Then we move the injured crew. Admiral Vextar felt confused. Why was the captain asking permission from a medical officer? In coalition ships, medical staff followed orders from commanders. They did not give orders to commanders. Of course, Admiral Vextar said. Dr. Lee Minho can examine everything he needs. The next few hours were busy. Coalition medical staff worked with Lee Minho to treat the injured humans. Admiral Vextar noticed that Lee Minho did not just treat injuries. He also talked quietly with each human crew member. He asked about their fears and worries. He touched their shoulders gently. He spoke words of comfort. The other humans clearly loved this doctor. They smiled when they saw him. They relaxed when he spoke to them. Even Captain Park seemed calmer after talking with Lee Minho. During the evening meal, Admiral Vextar sat with the human officers. Captain Park introduced his second-in-command as Lieutenant Commander Kim Dae-hyun. Kim was younger but seemed very intelligent and capable. Tell me about your mission, Admiral Vextar asked. We were exploring the outer systems, Captain Park explained, looking for planets suitable for colonies. We collect scientific data and send it back to Earth. And Dr. Lee Minho? He seems very important to your crew. Captain Park smiled for the first time since the rescue. Doc is the heart of our ship. He keeps us healthy in body and spirit. Good crews need good doctors. But he is not a military officer. Lieutenant Commander Kim answered this time. Doc holds the rank of commander in our medical corps. But rank is not why we respect him. We respect him because he cares for us like family. After dinner, Admiral Vextar watched the humans more carefully. He saw Lee Minho moving between crew members. The doctor played a simple card game with the younger humans. He shared tea with the older ones. He listened to their stories and concerns. When engineer Choi Hyemin started crying about the damaged ship, Lee Minho sat with her. He did not try to stop her tears. He just stayed beside her until she felt better. Navigator Yoon Sora seemed angry about their situation. She complained loudly about bad luck and failed equipment. Lee Minho listened patiently. Then he spoke quietly to her. Admiral Vextar could not hear the words, but Sora nodded and looked calmer. Interesting species, Science Officer Qualseth said to Admiral Vextar. Their social structure seems more complex than our initial report suggested. Yes, this doctor appears to have influence beyond his medical duties. But he shows no desire for power or command. Very strange. The coalition had strict rules about hierarchy. Commanders gave orders. Subordinates followed orders. Medical officers treated injuries and illness. They did not counsel crew or influence decisions, but these humans seemed different. They treated their doctor like a wise elder rather than just a medical specialist. Even their captain seemed to value the doctor's opinions on non-medical matters. That night, Admiral Vextar reviewed his observations. The humans appeared to be a peaceful but determined species. Their technology was less advanced than Coalition standard, but their crew worked together with unusual harmony. And at the center of that harmony sat one quiet doctor who seemed to command respect without demanding it. Admiral, Vextar decided to watch these humans more carefully during their stay. There might be more to learn about this species than their initial report suggested, especially about this doctor they called simply Doc. 2 weeks passed since the humans came aboard Harmony's Edge. Coalition medical protocols required all rescued aliens to stay in quarantine during this time. Admiral Vextar used this period to study the humans more closely. The humans adapted well to life on the Coalition ship. They helped with small tasks. They shared meals with Coalition crew members. They asked many questions about Coalition technology and culture. But Admiral Vextar noticed something strange about how the humans made decisions. Every morning, Captain Park held a meeting with his crew. They discussed their damaged ship and plans for repairs. They talked about their mission and when they might continue their journey. During these meetings, Captain Park clearly led the discussions. Lieutenant Commander Kim provided technical advice. The other crew members reported on their specialties. But whenever someone mentioned crew welfare or safety, everyone looked at Lee Minho. The doctor usually sat quietly during these meetings. He listened more than he spoke. When he did speak, his voice was soft and calm, but his words carried unusual weight. One morning, engineer Choi Hyemin suggested a plan to salvage important equipment from their damaged ship. The equipment contained years of scientific data from their exploration mission. The salvage operation would take 12 hours, Hyemin explained. 2 crew members would need to work in damaged sections with limited air supply. Captain Park nodded thoughtfully. The data is extremely valuable. Kim, what do you think about the risks? Lieutenant Commander Kim studied the technical reports. The structural damage is severe, but the operation is possible. We have the equipment and skills needed. Captain Park started to approve the plan. Then he paused. He looked at Lee Minho. Doc, what do you think? Lee Minho was quiet for a moment. He looked at the technical reports. He studied the faces of his crew members. Is this data worth risking 2 lives? He asked quietly. The question hung in the air. Captain Park thought carefully before answering. The data represents 3 years of work. It could help establish 5 new colonies, but you are right to ask about the risk. Perhaps we can modify the approach, Lee Minho said gently. Use shorter work periods, add extra safety equipment, take more time but reduce danger. Captain Park immediately nodded. Good thinking. Kim, redesign the operation using Doc's suggestions. Lieutenant Commander Kim began making changes without question. He extended the timeline from 12 hours to 2 days. He added multiple safety checks. He reduced the number of people working in dangerous areas at one time. Admiral Vextar found this interaction fascinating. The human captain had the authority to approve the original plan, but he chose to modify it based on his doctor's concerns, and his second-in-command implemented the changes immediately. In coalition ships, medical officers gave advice about crew health, but commanders made final decisions about operations. These humans seemed to give their doctor equal voice in planning decisions. The pattern continued throughout the 2 weeks. Navigator Yoon Sora struggled with nightmares about their ship's near destruction. She had trouble sleeping and became irritable during the day. Coalition medical staff offered standard treatments for stress disorders, but Captain Park asked Lee Min-ho to handle Sora's care personally. Lee Min-ho spent hours talking with Sora. He did not just treat her symptoms. He helped her process her fears and guilt about the accident. He assigned her light duties that kept her busy but not stressed. When Sora suggested she should return to full duty immediately, Lee Min-ho gently disagreed. "Your mind needs time to heal just like your body would," he told her. "Take the rest you need." Captain Park supported this decision completely. "Doc knows what is best for crew recovery," he told Admiral Vextar. "We trust his judgment about when people are ready to return to duty." Admiral Vextar noticed that all the humans accepted Lee Min-ho's decisions about their health and welfare without question, even when those decisions affected ship operations. Communications Officer Ohana wanted to work extra hours to help repair their damaged communication systems. Lee Min-ho observed that she was pushing herself too hard. 6 hours of work, then 4 hours of rest, he told her. "Your skills are important, but your health comes first." Hana immediately accepted this schedule. She did not argue or complain. She trusted that Lee Min-ho understood her limits better than she did. Science Officer Kwal Seth found these interactions puzzling. "Admiral, the human medical officer seems to have authority over crew assignments and duty schedules. This is highly unusual." "Yes," Admiral Vextar agreed. "In our ships, medical staff treat injuries and illness. They do not control work schedules or operational decisions. Perhaps it is a cultural difference. Some species have unusual social structures." But Admiral Vextar suspected there was more to observe. The humans did not just follow Lee Min-ho's medical advice. They seemed to trust his judgment about all aspects of their welfare. During the second week, a minor crisis tested this trust. Coalition engineers needed to shut down power to the section where the humans were staying. The shutdown would last 6 hours. It would affect heating, lighting, and air circulation. Captain Park gathered his crew to discuss the situation. Some humans suggested moving to other parts of the ship. Others wanted to stay and endure the discomfort. As usual, Captain Park looked to Lee Min-ho for guidance. "The temperature drop will not be dangerous for healthy adults," Lee Min-ho said, "but Engineer Choi is still recovering from her injuries. The cold could slow her healing. And Navigator Yoon needs consistent sleep to manage her stress." "What do you recommend?" Captain Park asked. "We move Hyemin and Sora to heated sections. The rest of us can stay and manage the discomfort." Again, Captain Park accepted this advice immediately. Lieutenant Commander Kim began making arrangements. No one questioned the doctor's assessment or suggestions. Admiral Vextar watched this decision process with growing curiosity. The human commander had complete authority to make choices for his crew, but he consistently deferred to his medical officer on matters affecting crew welfare. More interesting was how naturally this happened. The humans did not debate or discuss whether to follow Lee Min-ho's advice. They simply accepted that he had the final word on anything related to their health and safety. "This doctor has remarkable influence," Admiral Vextar told translator Kethra. "Yet he shows no signs of ambition or desire for power. Perhaps that is why they trust him," Kethra suggested. "Power given freely is often more respected than power taken by force." Admiral Vextar decided to observe the humans more carefully. There were clearly aspects of their culture and command structure that coalition reports had missed, and at the center of it all was one quiet doctor who seemed to command absolute trust without ever raising his voice or giving direct orders. The emergency signal arrived during the humans' third week aboard Harmony's Edge. Admiral Vextar studied the message with growing concern. "Mining colony Zerion 7 reports attack by raider ships," Communications Officer Wethka announced. "Pirates have taken the colony. 200 civilians are being held hostage." Admiral Vextar activated the fleet communication system. All ships prepare for combat operations. We have a hostage situation at Zerion 7. The Coalition had dealt with pirates before. These criminals attacked weak targets like mining colonies and cargo ships. They usually demanded payment and disappeared back into deep space. But hostage situations were always dangerous. Wrong decisions could result in many civilian deaths. What do the pirates want? Admiral Vextar asked. Standard ransom demand. 10,000 Coalition credits per hostage. Payment in 48 hours or they begin executing civilians. Admiral Vextar calculated quickly. 2 million credits was a large sum but not impossible. However, the Coalition never paid ransom to criminals. It only encouraged more attacks. Assemble the tactical team. We plan a rescue operation. Captain Park approached Admiral Vextar on the bridge. Admiral, we request permission to assist with the rescue mission. Your ship is damaged. Your crew should remain safe aboard Harmony's Edge. Our ship is damaged, but our crew is not. We have experience with hostile boarding operations. We can help. Admiral Vextar considered this offer. The humans had advanced tactical knowledge despite their simple technology. Extra help might be useful. Very well. Report to the tactical briefing in 1 hour. The briefing room filled with Coalition officers from multiple ships. Admiral Vextar displayed the colony layout on the main screen. Zerion 7 is a standard mining facility, he explained. 3 main buildings connected by underground tunnels. The pirates have control of all surface structures. Hostages are being held in the main dormitory building. Commander Threxnell from the assault ship Valiant Strike studied the layout. Recommended approach is rapid assault. Strike teams hit all 3 buildings simultaneously. Overwhelm the pirates before they can harm hostages. Estimated casualties? Admiral Vextar asked. Acceptable losses. Perhaps 10 to 15 hostages. Maybe more if the pirates resist strongly. Captain Park spoke up quietly. Those are not acceptable losses. Those are people with families. Commander Threxnell looked annoyed. In military operations, some civilian casualties are inevitable. The goal is to minimize overall loss of life. The goal should be to save everyone possible, Captain Park replied. Admiral Vextar noticed that Lee Minho had been listening silently. The human doctor studied the colony layout carefully. His face showed deep concern. Dr. Lee Minho, do you have medical concerns about the rescue operation? Admiral Vextar asked. Lee Minho looked up from the display. I have concerns about the approach. Rapid assault creates panic. Panicked people make mistakes. Mistakes get innocent people killed. What alternative do you suggest? Commander Threxnell asked with obvious irritation. Patient approach. Careful planning. We prioritize hostage safety over speed of resolution. Admiral Vextar watched the interaction between the humans. Captain Park immediately nodded agreement with his doctor's assessment. Doc is right, Captain Park said. We need to modify our tactical approach. Kim, begin planning for minimum civilian casualty risk. Lieutenant Commander Kim pulled up his own tactical display. If we prioritize hostage safety, the operation will take longer. More time for something to go wrong. Better to take extra time than to lose innocent lives, Lee Minho said quietly. Again, Captain Park accepted this guidance immediately. Kim redesigned the assault plan. Focus on isolating the pirates from the hostages first. Commander Threxnell looked confused. Captain Park, you are allowing your medical officer to dictate tactical decisions? I am listening to the wisdom of someone who values life above all else, Captain Park replied. Admiral Vextar felt increasingly puzzled by human decision-making. In coalition military operations, tactical officers planned assaults. Medical officers treated casualties afterward. They did not influence strategic planning, but Captain Park treated his doctor's opinion as equal to his tactical officer's professional assessment. Lee Minho continued studying the colony layout. These mining colonies have emergency protocols, hidden shelters, backup communication systems. The colonists might be able to help with their own rescue. How do we contact them without alerting the pirates? Lieutenant Commander Kim asked. Mining facilities have maintenance tunnels that connect to the main communication hub. Small teams could reach the hub and establish contact with hostages. Commander Threxnell shook his head. Too complicated. Too many variables. Simple assault is more reliable. Simple assault is more likely to get people killed, Lee Minho replied calmly. Captain Park stood up. Admiral Vextar, we propose a modified rescue plan. Small teams infiltrate through maintenance systems. Establish communication with hostages. Coordinate rescue from inside while assault teams provide external pressure. This approach is untested and dangerous. Commander Threxnall argued. All rescue operations are dangerous, Lee Minho said. The question is whether we accept danger to ourselves to reduce danger to innocent people. Admiral Vextar looked around the briefing room. Coalition officers seemed uncomfortable with this approach. They preferred simple, direct military solutions. But the humans appeared completely unified behind their doctor's assessment. Even their military officers accepted his guidance about tactical planning. Very well, we will attempt the infiltration approach first. If it fails, we resort to direct assault. Commander Threxnall clearly disagreed but accepted orders. As the briefing ended, Admiral Vextar approached Lee Minho privately. Doctor, you seem very confident about tactical planning for someone with medical training. Lee Minho smiled gently. Admiral, my job is to preserve life and health. Sometimes that requires thinking about more than injuries and diseases. It requires thinking about how to prevent injuries and diseases from happening. But you are overruling experienced military officers. I am not overruling anyone. I am simply reminding everyone what our real goal should be. Save lives, not just win battles. Admiral Vextar watched Lee Minho walk away to rejoin his crew. This human doctor continued to puzzle him. The man showed no desire for military command or tactical glory. He simply insisted that all decisions consider the value of individual lives. And somehow, experienced military officers like Captain Park and Lieutenant Commander Kim trusted this approach completely. Admiral Vextar began to suspect there was much more to learn about human culture and their unusual relationship with their medical staff. The rescue operation would provide an important test of these human methods. The rescue mission began at dawn on Zerion 7. Admiral Vextar watched from the command ship as assault teams moved into position around the mining colony. Coalition forces surrounded all three buildings. Human infiltration teams disappeared into the maintenance tunnel systems. Everything started according to plan. Lieutenant Commander Kim led the human infiltration team through the underground passages. Communications Officer Ohana carried portable communication equipment. Engineer Choi Hyeman brought tools to access the colony's internal systems. Infiltration team in position, Kim reported over the communication channel. We have reached the central communication hub. Excellent, Admiral Vextar replied. Establish contact with the hostages. Within minutes, Ohana had connected to the colony's internal communication system. Her voice was calm and reassuring as she spoke to the frightened colonists. This is the Coalition Rescue Team. We are here to help you. Please remain calm and follow our instructions exactly. The colonists responded with relief and hope. They had been trapped for 36 hours with little food or water. The pirates had threatened to start killing hostages if their demands were not met soon. How many pirates are in your building? Ohana asked. 6 in the main dormitory. Maybe 8 more in the other buildings, came the reply. Lee Minho monitored the communications from aboard Harmony's Edge. Admiral Vextar noticed that Captain Park deferred to the doctor for guidance about the next phase of the operation. The hostages are frightened but unharmed, Lee Minho observed. They can help with their own rescue if we give them clear, simple instructions. What do you recommend, Doc? Captain Park asked. Slow and careful. Build trust with the colonists first. Then coordinate their movements with our assault teams. Commander Threxnall had been listening to these exchanges with growing impatience. We have the pirates surrounded. Infiltration team is in position. Time for immediate assault. Negative, Lee Minho said quietly over the communication channel. We need more information about hostage locations before any assault begins. Admiral Vextar was startled. The human doctor had just countermanded a direct tactical order from a coalition military commander. Even more surprising, Captain Park and Lieutenant Commander Kim immediately began implementing Lee Minho's guidance instead of Commander Threxnall's orders. Kim, continue gathering intelligence, Captain Park instructed. No assault until we have complete information about civilian positions. Commander Threxnall activated a private channel to Admiral Vextar. Sir, the humans are not following proper military protocol. Their medical officer is interfering with tactical operations. Admiral Vextar studied the situation carefully. The human approach was taking longer than planned, but it was also providing detailed information about the pirates and hostages. Continue with current approach, Admiral Vextar decided. We have time to gather more intelligence. For the next 2 hours, Ohana worked patiently with the colonists. She learned the exact locations of all hostages. She identified which pirates were in each building. She helped the colonists organize themselves for coordinated movement when the rescue began. Lee Min-ho monitored every detail. He asked questions about injured colonists, elderly residents, and families with small children. He wanted to understand not just where people were located, but who would need special help during the rescue. Building 1 has 12 hostages, including 2 elderly residents and 1 injured minor. Ohana reported. Building 2 has 37 hostages, including 6 families with young children. The main dormitory has the remaining hostages, mostly adult workers. Evacuation priorities? Captain Park asked Lee Min-ho. Injured and elderly first. Families with children second. Adult workers last because they can help with the evacuation of others. Lieutenant Commander Kim began coordinating with coalition assault teams based on these priorities. The rescue plan became more complex but also more focused on protecting the most vulnerable colonists. Then the situation changed suddenly. Movement detected, reported a coalition scout team. Pirates are consolidating their positions. They appear to be preparing for something. Commander Threxnall immediately activated all communication channels. All teams prepare for immediate assault. The pirates know we are here. We cannot wait any longer. Wait, Lee Min-ho said firmly over the channel. Do not begin assault until civilian evacuation routes are confirmed. Commander Threxnall exploded with frustration. Medical Officer Lee Min-ho, you do not have authority to delay military operations. Admiral Vextar, order the humans to follow proper command structure. Admiral Vextar hesitated. Coalition military protocol was clear. Tactical commanders led assault operations. Medical officers had no role in combat decision-making. But Lee Min-ho continued speaking calmly to all teams. Ohana, confirm evacuation routes for elderly and injured colonists. Kim, position your teams to assist with civilian movement. Captain Park, coordinate with coalition forces for hostage protection during assault. To Admiral Vextar's amazement, not only did the human crew follow Lee Min-ho's instructions immediately, but some coalition teams began implementing his suggestions as well. All human units, implement Evacuation Protocol 7, Lee Min-ho continued. Civilian safety is our primary objective. No exceptions. Captain Park and Lieutenant Commander Kim responded instantly. Understood, Doc. Protocol 7 is active. Even Communications Officer Ohana shifted her focus based on Lee Min-ho's guidance. Roger, Doc, prioritizing evacuation routes for vulnerable colonists. Admiral Vextar realized he was witnessing something unprecedented. The human medical officer was issuing direct operational orders to military personnel, and they were following those orders without question or hesitation. More shocking still, when Engineer Choi Hyemin suggested a risky maneuver to disable the pirates' communication equipment, she looked directly to Lee Min-ho for approval. Doc, I can cut their external communications, but I need to access the main power junction. It puts me in potential danger. Lee Min-ho considered this carefully. Is this necessary to protect the hostages? It prevents them from calling for reinforcements or coordinating between buildings. Do it, Hyemin, Lee Min-ho said simply. But take Kim with you for backup. Hyemin immediately proceeded with the dangerous mission. She did not seek permission from Captain Park or coordinate with Coalition Tactical Command. Lee Min-ho's approval was sufficient authority. Commander Threxnall watched these interactions with complete bewilderment. Admiral, the human medical officer is commanding this entire operation. Their military officers are taking orders from a doctor. Admiral Vextar observed the results of this unusual command structure. The human teams moved with perfect coordination under Lee Min-ho's guidance. They prioritized civilian safety above tactical objectives. They took calculated risks to protect innocent lives, and most importantly, their approach was working. Infiltration successful, Lieutenant Commander Kim reported. All hostile communications disabled. Civilian evacuation routes confirmed. Hostages ready for coordinated rescue. Execute rescue operation, Lee Min-ho instructed calmly. Remember, we save everyone possible. The assault began with precise coordination. Coalition teams moved against the pirates while human teams guided colonists to safety. The operation succeeded with minimal violence and no civilian casualties. All 200 hostages were rescued safely. Only 3 pirates were injured during the brief firefight. As the rescue teams returned to their ships, Admiral Vextar struggled to understand what he had witnessed. The humans had achieved a flawless rescue operation under the command of their medical officer. Their doctor had issued direct orders to military personnel during combat operations. And somehow this approach had worked better than traditional coalition tactics. Admiral Vextar realized he needed to learn much more about human command structure and the extraordinary authority wielded by their medical staff. Admiral Vextar called for a formal meeting after the successful rescue at Zarian 7. The main briefing room aboard Harmony's Edge felt tense as coalition officers gathered with the human. Crew Commander Threxnell sat with obvious frustration. Science Officer Qualseth carried data tablets filled with observations about human behavior. Translator Kethra prepared her language systems for what promised to be a difficult conversation. Captain Park entered, with Lieutenant Commander Kim and Dr. Lee Minyo. The three humans appeared calm and relaxed, as if nothing unusual had happened during the rescue operation. "Please be seated," Admiral Vextar began. "We need to discuss what occurred during the rescue mission." "The mission was successful," Captain Park said simply. "All hostages were rescued safely. No civilian casualties. Minimal use of force. I believe this represents an excellent outcome." "The outcome was indeed excellent," Admiral Vextar agreed. "But the process raises serious questions about command structure and military protocol." Commander Threxnell leaned forward aggressively. "Your medical officer issued direct orders to military personnel during combat operations. This violates every known principle of military command." Captain Park looked genuinely puzzled. Doc made recommendations based on his assessment of the situation. "We followed his guidance because it prioritized civilian safety." "But he is a medical officer, not a tactical commander," Qualseth interjected. "In coalition forces, medical staff provide support services. They do not command combat operations." Lee Minho spoke for the first time since entering the room. "Perhaps we should explain how human military structure actually works." "Please do," Admiral Vextar said. "Because what we observed contradicts everything we know about military hierarchy." Captain Park looked at his doctor with obvious respect. "Doc, you should explain this. You understand the principles better than anyone." Lee Minho nodded slowly. "Admiral Vextar, human space services operate under integrated command structure. Military officers handle tactical and strategic operations, but medical officers hold authority over any situation that affects crew welfare, safety, or ethical considerations." "What does that mean in practical terms?" Admiral Vextar asked. "It means that when human lives are at stake, medical authority can override tactical concerns. My orders supersede military commands if I determine that lives are being unnecessarily endangered." Commander Threxnell looked shocked. "You are saying that doctors can countermand military commanders during combat operations?" "Not exactly," Captain Park explained. "Doc does not give tactical orders, but he can invoke medical authority to modify or stop operations that violate our ethical obligations." Lieutenant Commander Kim added more details. "The Hippocratic Oath is not just medical philosophy for humans. It has been integrated into our military code of conduct. First do no harm applies to all our operations, not just medical treatment." Admiral Vextar tried to understand this concept. "So your medical officers have veto power over military decisions?" "Any crew member can invoke medical authority to protect lives," Lee Minho explained patiently. "But as Chief Medical Officer, I have final authority on whether military actions compromise our ethical obligations to preserve life." "This seems impossible," Qualseth said. "How can military operations function with medical staff controlling strategic decisions?" "Medical staff do not control strategic decisions," Captain Park clarified. "They provide ethical oversight to ensure our decisions remain consistent with human values." Commander Threxnell shook his head in disbelief. "Your command structure puts a doctor above military commanders. How do you maintain discipline and order?" Lee Minho smiled gently. "Commander, discipline and order come from shared values and mutual trust, not from rigid hierarchy. Our crew follows my guidance because they trust my judgment about protecting human life." "But what if your medical concerns conflict with mission objectives?" Admiral Vextar asked. "Then we find a different way to achieve our objectives," Captain Park said immediately. "We never sacrifice lives for missions, politics, or glory. That is fundamental to who we are as humans." Navigator Yoon Sora spoke up from her seat near the back of the room. "Admiral, We trust Doc with our lives because he has proven that he values those lives above everything else. His word is final on matters of life and death, because we know he will always choose to protect us. Engineer Choi Hyemin nodded agreement. During the rescue operation, Doc could have approved the quick assault plan. It would have been faster and easier. But he insisted on taking extra time to ensure civilian safety. That is why we follow his decisions. Communications Officer Ohana added her perspective. In human culture, moral authority often carries more weight than formal rank. Doc has earned our trust through years of putting our welfare above his own comfort or advancement. Admiral Vextar studied the faces around the table. Coalition military structure was based on rigid hierarchy and clear chains of command. Officers gave orders based on rank and position. Subordinates obeyed without question. But these humans seemed to operate on completely different principles. They gave authority to individuals based on trust and ethical credibility rather than formal rank. Dr. Lee Minho. Admiral Vextar said carefully, "In coalition forces, medical officers are specialists who support military operations. They do not make strategic decisions or issue operational commands. How do you justify taking authority over combat situations?" Lee Minho considered this question thoughtfully. "Admiral, I do not take authority. Authority is given to me by my crew because they trust my commitment to preserving life. When Captain Park asks for my assessment, he is not surrendering his command. He is seeking wisdom from someone whose only agenda is protecting the people under our care. But during the rescue operation, you issued direct orders to military personnel. I provided guidance about prioritizing civilian safety. Military personnel chose to follow that guidance because it aligned with human values and ethical principles." Captain Park leaned forward. "Admiral, perhaps the confusion comes from different cultural perspectives. Coalition forces appear to separate military efficiency from ethical considerations. Human forces integrate both aspects into every decision. We cannot separate tactical success from moral success," Lieutenant Commander Kim explained. "A mission that saves the colony but kills innocent people is not successful by human standards, even if those casualties are militarily acceptable." Commander Threxnall asked, "No casualties are acceptable if they can be prevented through better planning and greater care." Lee Minho replied quietly. Admiral Vextar felt his understanding of human culture shifting dramatically. These people had developed a military structure that placed ethical considerations above tactical efficiency. And somehow they made it work. "Dr. Lee Minho, what gives you the knowledge and wisdom to make these ethical judgments?" "Nothing special, Admiral. Just a commitment to the principle that every life has value and that protecting life is more important than winning battles or advancing careers." "And your crew accepts this principle?" Captain Park answered immediately. "Our crew lives by this principle. Doc does not impose it on us. He simply reminds us of our own values when tactical pressures might make us forget what really matters." Admiral Vextar looked around the room at coalition officers. They appeared confused and somewhat disturbed by these revelations about human command structure. "I think I am beginning to understand," Admiral Vextar said slowly. "Humans do not give doctors military command. They give doctors moral authority to ensure that military commands remain consistent with human ethical principles." "Exactly," Lee Minho said with a warm smile. "My role is not to command the ship. My role is to remind everyone that the people on the ship are more important than the ship itself." Admiral Vextar spent the next 3 days preparing his report for the Coalition High Council. The implications of what he had learned about human command structure troubled him deeply. For centuries, the Coalition had maintained order through rigid military hierarchy. Commanders gave orders based on rank and experience. Subordinates obeyed without question. This system had built the largest peaceful alliance in galactic history. But humans operated on completely different principles. They gave moral authority to individuals who had earned trust through wisdom and ethical commitment. They integrated compassion into military decision-making. They refused to accept casualties that could be prevented through better planning. And somehow, their approach seemed to work better than traditional coalition methods. Science Officer Qualseth entered Admiral Vextar's quarters carrying data tablets filled with analysis. "Admiral, I have completed my study of human social dynamics. The results are remarkable." "Explain." "Human crews show extraordinary cohesion and morale compared to coalition standards. Stress levels are lower. Conflict resolution is more effective. Mission success rates are higher when measured by comprehensive outcomes rather than simple tactical objectives. Admiral Vextar reviewed the data carefully. What accounts for these differences? Trust appears to be the key factor. Human crew members trust their leaders to make decisions that prioritize crew welfare. This trust creates willing cooperation rather than grudging obedience. And their medical officer? Dr. Li Mingho? He functions as what humans call a moral compass for the entire crew. His presence reminds everyone of their shared values. His authority comes from moral credibility rather than formal position. Before Admiral Vextar could respond, emergency alarms began sounding throughout the ship. He rushed to the bridge with Qualzeth close behind. "Report," Admiral Vextar commanded. "Coalition vessel Bright Dawn reports catastrophic system failure," Communications Officer Wethka announced. "Life support failing. Hull breach in multiple sections. 200 crew members aboard." Admiral Vextar studied the tactical display. Bright Dawn was drifting in space with massive damage to its primary systems. Rescue would be extremely difficult and dangerous. How long before total life support failure? 6 hours maximum. Possibly less if the damage spreads. Captain Park appeared on the bridge with his senior crew. "Admiral, we request permission to assist with rescue operations. Your ship is still undergoing repairs. You lack the equipment for major rescue operations. We have experience with emergency evacuations. Every person aboard Bright Dawn deserves a chance to survive." Admiral Vextar calculated the risks quickly. Standard Coalition protocol would evacuate as many crew members as possible, using available resources. Acceptable losses would be perhaps 50 to 70 people who could not be reached in time. Commander Threxnell voiced the standard approach. "Admiral, we can save approximately 130 crew members using our current rescue capacity. Attempting to save everyone would endanger rescue teams and possibly result in greater casualties." Captain Park looked at Li Mingho. The doctor studied the rescue projections. With obvious concern, 200 people are depending on us, Li Mingho said quietly. "We do not abandon people just because saving them is difficult." "Doc is right," Captain Park said immediately. "We find a way to save everyone or we die trying." Admiral Vexitar watched this exchange with fascination. Once again, the human commander deferred to his medical officer's ethical assessment. And once again, the medical officer insisted that human values required attempting to save every life possible. "Dr. Li Mingho," Admiral Vextar said, "Coalition rescue protocols are designed to maximize survival rates while minimizing risks to rescue personnel. Attempting to save everyone could result in losing everyone." Li Mingho nodded thoughtfully. "Admiral, I understand the mathematical logic. But humans do not make decisions based purely on mathematical calculations. We make decisions based on the principle that every life has equal value, even if that principle creates greater overall risk. Especially then, our humanity is not measured by how well we calculate acceptable losses. It is measured by how hard we fight to ensure there are no losses at all." Lieutenant Commander Kim had been studying the technical data about Bright Dawn's condition. "Admiral, if we modify our approach and coordinate rescue teams more carefully, we might be able to reach all crew members." "The time constraints are severe," Commander Threxnell objected. "Modified approaches will take too long. Then we work faster and smarter," Li Mingho said calmly. "We use smaller rescue teams. Multiple simultaneous operations. We accept greater risk to ourselves to reduce risk to the people we are trying to save." Admiral Vextar faced a critical decision. Coalition protocols recommended the safe approach that would save most lives. The humans recommended a dangerous approach that might save everyone or might result in disaster. "Dr. Li Mingho, if your approach fails, we could lose rescue teams along with the people we are trying to save. How do you justify that risk?" Li Mingho met Admiral Vextar's gaze steadily. "Admiral, if we do not try to save everyone, we guarantee that some people will die. If we do try, we give everyone a chance to live. The choice between certain death for some and possible death for all is not really a choice at all." Captain Park stepped forward. "Admiral, human rescue teams volunteer for this mission knowing the risks. We accept danger to ourselves because that is what humans do. We protect each other." Communications Officer Ohana activated her equipment without waiting for orders. "Beginning communication with Bright Dawn survivors. We will coordinate rescue from their end." Engineer Choi Hyeman started calculating power requirements for expanded rescue operations. We can boost our transporter systems to handle larger groups if we reroute power from non-essential systems. Navigator. Yunsora began plotting efficient rescue routes that would minimize travel time between damaged sections of the failing ship. Admiral Vextar watched the human crew spring into action based on their doctor's ethical guidance. They did not debate or hesitate. They simply began implementing a rescue plan that prioritized saving everyone possible. More remarkable still, several coalition crew members began assisting with the expanded rescue effort. Lee Minho's commitment to preserving life seemed to inspire people regardless of their species or cultural background. Admiral, translator Kethra said quietly, the human approach is affecting our own crew. They want to attempt the comprehensive rescue operation. Admiral Vextar made his decision. All ships prepare for expanded rescue operations. We attempt to save every crew member aboard Bright Dawn. The next 4 hours tested everyone involved. Rescue teams worked in dangerous conditions aboard the failing ship. Multiple simultaneous operations stretched resources to their limits. Several times, rescue teams faced situations where coalition protocols would have recommended abandoning specific groups of survivors. Each time, Lee Minho's voice provided calm guidance over the communication channels. No one gets left behind. Find another way. And somehow the rescue teams found other ways. They improvised solutions. They took calculated risks. They worked with extraordinary coordination and determination. Captain Park led one of the most dangerous rescue operations personally. When he became trapped in a collapsing section with 6 survivors, Lee Minho coordinated their extraction with patient precision. Doc, the structural damage is spreading, Captain Park reported. We might not make it out. You will make it out, Lee Minho replied firmly. All of you, stay calm and follow my instructions exactly. For 30 tense minutes, Lee Minho guided the trapped team through a complex evacuation route. His voice remained steady and confident even when the situation seemed hopeless. When Captain Park and the survivors finally reached safety, Admiral Vextar understood something profound about human nature. Dr. Lee Minho, Admiral Vextar said over the communication channel, you commanded that entire rescue operation without ever raising your voice or expressing doubt. How do you maintain such confidence in desperate situations? Admiral, confidence comes from commitment. When you are absolutely committed to preserving life, you find strength and wisdom you did not know you possessed. The rescue operation succeeded completely. All 200 crew members from Bright Dawn were saved safely. The expanded approach had worked exactly as the humans predicted. As the rescued crew recovered aboard coalition ships, Admiral Vextar reflected on what he had witnessed. Human command structure was not just different from coalition methods. It was potentially superior in many situations. Later that evening, Admiral Vextar met privately with Lee Minho in the medical bay. Doctor, I need to understand something. Your crew gives you extraordinary authority over life and death decisions, but you show no desire for power or command. Why do you accept this responsibility? Lee Minho smiled gently while organizing medical supplies. Admiral, true authority is not about having power over others. It is about having responsibility to others. My crew trusts me to make difficult decisions because they know I will always choose what is best for them, not what is best for me. But what if you make mistakes? What if your ethical judgments are wrong? Then I accept the consequences and learn from the experience. But I would rather make mistakes trying to